this next question, but what are some tips for those people that are considering studying abroad? Because that's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah, just quick plug for me. I can't talk about too much about studying abroad because that was my biggest regret in college. So do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. That is by far my number one regret. So whatever school you get to, like immediately figure out what you need to do and what are the requirements to get well, I guess you have to apply. So figure out what the application process is to do it. For me, I was an engineering student and we had to figure out where we wanted to study abroad by the end of the first quarter of freshman year. And I didn't know about that until second quarter. So I was like, are you kidding me? Like I didn't even go to the school first quarter anyways, I transferred, but that was a huge regret of mine. So highly recommend it. I've heard nothing but good things this seems a little bit hyperbolic to say this, but I actually have had a lot of friends to say that they were legitimately a life-changing experience. Again, it's hyperbolic, but they reflect on it and gain a lot of experience from that. So yeah, only thing I could say is highly recommend it and do everything you can to explore it if it interests you.
This is the first year of my career because of COVID. It hasn't happened, but every year until now, I've gotten texts from former students because I always encourage them to take the opportunity to study abroad. And universally, all the kids that I've had that I've advised have said it's like the greatest thing they did in school. So I think if you have the opportunity and the finances and there's a program that works, I would totally recommend it.
Yeah, I studied abroad my junior year. I own the program that I did, and I think it's all the UCs I think partner with the education abroad program. But there's many different programs out there. You could do it like through your university. You could do it through a outside company. So just do the research and figure out what your college partners with and what other options are out there. The application was pretty wild for my program. Like I had to attend a lot of meetings my sophomore year, so the year before I went abroad. And the application was pretty extensive. I multiple times thought that, this is more trouble than it's worth. I don't think I'm going to do it. And I ended up going, and I agree, it was like extremely life changing. You really learn how to be independent. I will share that I got kicked out of my dorms and I had to live with friends that I had made in school, and did not tell my parents because my mom is a constant worrier. I'm sure some of you have moms out there that are like that. And I knew that she really couldn't help me from across the world, and that would just be scaring her a lot. And so I had to just make some choices and become independent and just kind of grow up on the fly. And I think that is something that studying abroad really, really helps with. The other things is like you meet people from different cultures and places. It really helps you learn about the world and about yourself and your context of like where the culture you come from versus like the other cultures that are out there that you may not have any exposure to or experience with. More on the practical side, if oftentimes your financial aid, if you're getting financial aid, will transfer over. So just do some homework on that. If it's a finance thing, it often works out. The other tiny bit is that, what was my very last thing? I'll chime back in if I remember.
Just really quick, there's a Q&A question about is studying abroad better during junior year or senior year or both years? Um, I think it's totally completely up to you. It also, you should double check with your major because I know some programs are a lot more intense than others. Like people who have engineering, kind of as Ben mentioned, like you kind of have to plan that out a little bit earlier. People who are other majors, maybe not so much. It's totally up to you. I know people who have studied abroad multiple times. I also know people who, since I'm currently a junior and this is fall quarter and obviously we're all remote, people who were really, really devastated that they couldn't go study abroad this fall and they were really planning on it. So they're trying to move their stuff to senior year. So it really doesn't, there's no like right way to do it. It's more like double check with your department, with your classes. And with study abroad, the one thing I will say is you really need to be on top of like understanding what you want to take and where, because some study abroad classes and programs, like you can take classes that count for your major, for example, and then some study abroad programs are more like you can take basically like extracurricular classes that might not count for much. And that's totally fine regardless. It's just you have to be a little bit aware of like what your schedule looks like and if you want to graduate in 4 years, or if you want to study abroad but also graduate later. And the last thing I'll say is I know a lot of people study abroad over the summer. And that's something that I wasn't aware of until like I got to college, but you can definitely take a summer to study abroad, and then you're not missing any of like your college experience if that's important to you. But you're still being able to like get that education and be abroad.
Yeah, I did want to add something. Studying abroad is not, it's not an opportunity that's only available to people that go to college, right? Like you can easily study abroad, but not go to school. I had a couple friends that participated in this program called WWOF. It's WWOF. It's the worldwide organization of organic farmers. So you can go anywhere in the world. Every contract is different. You can stay in whatever city you want. Like for example, my friend went to New Zealand and they worked on an organic farm. They had like their room and board was paid for with the farmers they stayed at. And they had obviously the food that they ate was the food that they got from the farm. And then they had free time on the weekends. So there's plenty, that's just one example, right? So there's plenty of opportunities to go abroad if you don't go to a 4-year right out of school too.
Yeah, Benat's comment about planning your classes, that was my last point. Like, for instance, I studied abroad for an entire year because I just thought it would be a cool cultural experience to be there for an entire year. But I also made sure that by the time you're a junior or senior, you're going to be taking classes that are specific to your major. And so I made sure that there were enough classes that would allow me to graduate in my time frame. When I made that decision to study for an entire year. Most of my friends only studied for a semester or a quarter because they were essentially like my friends who went to Spain, they were essentially just taking like Spanish classes and electives. And so it didn't really work well with their timeline to go the full year. To also kind of hop onto what Ben was talking about, one of my really good friends was a graphic design major, and like right when he was graduating, he hated it. He was just like, I'm done with graphic design. It's not really what I thought it was, and like I'm gonna graduate, so I'm gonna stick with it. But it wasn't his thing. And after he graduated, he went and traveled around South America. He just bought a one-way ticket, traveled around for about a year, and during that time, he just met people, integrated with the people in the different places that he went, asked them what their stories were what they, what their lives were like. And he did amazing things. I really want to try to get him to come and speak at Los Gatos High School. But one of the things he did when he was in Argentina, he just met these other graphic designers, and they ended up asking him to be on this team, and he helped redesign like the currency for Argentina. And he found a love for graphic design again by like traveling around in all of these different countries and figuring out how he could use his talents to like really affect people in positive ways. So just a fun story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I guess to sum it all up, going abroad is or at least appears to be a very life-changing experience.
There's a question about community college and studying abroad. There are programs at community colleges. You just got to do a little bit of research. So that's all. So it's available to people that go to a JC in California and in other states. You just have to do a little bit of research because it won't be available probably as broadly. And it really depends on what you want to do. And like Ben said, there's a ton of other advance yourself abroad options. But yes, there is study abroad at junior colleges.